It's been a month since the administration sent National Guard troops into the District of Columbia, and it's been several months since they did the same with Los Angeles, with mixed results. Now, Chicago is bracing for additional immigration support. Local law officials there are pushing back against Trump, who's saying he's going to send federal troops into the city.
It's, again, I mentioned as we were headed into the break, he had this social media thing over the weekend where he said, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning," which is, of course, a reference to Apocalypse Now, and "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," which is not a good thing.
No, here's ABC's Matt Rivers on that.
Tall fencing up outside the building telling you that they are expecting more protests over the days to come. This after the president spent the weekend really zeroing in on Chicago, talking about both the city's crime problems as well as illegal immigration. The president even posting a manipulated image on social media, writing, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning," a play, of course, off the movie Apocalypse Now.
And here's the actual line from Apocalypse Now.
"I love the smell of napalm in the morning."
It wasn't something that was in that movie for a good reason. I mean, it was a very derogatory statement, yeah. and I love the smell of immigration in the morning. As we look back, I want to say with District of Columbia and Los Angeles, they've had mixed reviews with both. And with respect to Los Angeles, the court so far has said that deployment was illegal by Trump.
Right.
And I know that there's different reasons for each one. With the respect to the District of Columbia, it is a federal jurisdiction. It's
right.
So it's under federal control.
Right.
So arguably Trump is if there was a governor,
the de facto leader, right? Yeah.
So it's a little easier to send troops into Washington, D.C. when you are the leader of Washington, D.C. Not so much so when you're going into cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, and now he's threatening to go into New Orleans and Baltimore. In fact, he's saying, "I may do New Orleans instead of Chicago," is the latest that we're hearing.
Well, in New Orleans, even though Louisiana is a red state, New Orleans tends to be blue, right? And that's one of the issues too that people are saying is like, why are you going into cities where there's a crime rate worse in other places? But, when he posted that, the governor of Illinois responded and saying, "This is not normal. The president of the United States is threatening to go to war with an American city." I agree with him. I don't think that's normal.
Right. And it's something, I think we're going to look back on Los Angeles. I think we're going to look back on Washington, D.C. and say, okay, what is the proof? What actually happened? Was there a benefit to that? Mm-hmm. And in D.C., it's mixed. In Los Angeles, of course, I don't know that it had the effect that Trump was planning. In Washington, D.C., I don't know that we're seeing a major decrease in crime there, which was his intention, because there was already a huge decrease in crime in the D.C. area before he jumped in when he said it's at an all-time high. Of course, it wasn't at the time.
It's interesting. Chicago is they're getting ready to kind of fight back, really. So they had demonstrations over the weekend. They had people who are like, "We're getting ready to film. We're going to, when we have armed military coming into our city, we're going to fight back."
Right. And here's ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang on Trump's response.
"I pressed the president on why he's targeting Democratic strongholds like Boston and Chicago."
Mr. President, why target Chicago and Boston when there are cities and red states with higher crime rates?
Yeah. Really higher than Chicago?
There are, like Memphis and St. Louis.
Excuse me. You know how many people were killed in Chicago last weekend? 8. You think there's worse than that? I don't think so.
But FBI statistics show otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, you can get statistics to say just about anything from both sides. Whether how many people were killed, what's the normal rate there. But 8 last weekend in Chicago, the FBI saying that's not true.
Well, I'm not sure that they're disputing those numbers. The FBI is saying that there's a higher per capita crime rate in other places, right? And that's one of the things I think that Gavin Newsom has been doing in California, right? When he's been getting pushback from people in other places saying, "Oh, really? Well, your state has 3 times the murder rate that we do in California, for example, per capita, right? Per capita."
Right. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said this, "There is no emergency here that warrants the deployment of troops," he said in a September 4th post on media site X. He told reporters the state is prepared to immediately go to court if National Guard or other military troops are deployed into the city. So they're lining up. They're going to at least try to get an injunction against the administration from sending troops into their city. They can't do that because there's only the threat of it right now. But once the planes start coming and landing, then it looks like the state of Illinois is going to do something about it.
You know, what's interesting too is you've got people who have already done this, right? So we've already said DC is kind of its own unique thing because of the federal nexus there. But you have states that have said, we have not asked for help. We have not called for the federal government to be involved, right? And that is where you're getting that pushback. That so far it was successful in California, but I think other states will jump on that just as well.
Right, and in that light, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson said, look, if the federal government wants to help, they should invest, not invade. What he's saying is there are ways to do this if you want to get involved in helping our crime situation, but sending troops in isn't the answer. And it doesn't go well so far, we've seen, with the local citizenry. And I know that crime is a huge problem in a lot of American cities, but I think people don't like the federal presence. I think a lot of people don't like what the image it gives to their city.
Well, right. And you have armed people walking through the streets of your city, and ICE in particular is wearing these masks, right? So it can be really disturbing. We do have a texter who says, this could be a test in Chicago to see if the administration actually is serious about crime and wondering if ICE will arrest and deport organized crime figures and hired guns, right? Those are the people that are supposed to be in the crosshairs.
But ICE may not have jurisdiction over those if they're U.S. citizens. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're organized crime, or you're street gangs or something like that, I don't know. You know, I guess federal troops, National Guard, U.S. troops can do something about that. ICE probably can't.
So I'm going to give you some crime stats from St. Louis versus Chicago, right? So this reporter said, this ABC reporter said St. Louis has a higher per capita crime rate. So in Chicago, the total crime rate was 1705 per 100,000.
Okay.
Make a guess on St. Louis.
I would say it's a safer city, maybe 1,500, 1,200.
No, it's almost 7,000.
Ouch.
It's 6,948 per 100,000. And if you look at just at violent crimes,
4 times.
Yeah,
four times greater.
Yep. If you look at violent crimes, 540 per 100,000 in Chicago and 2010 in St. Louis. And if you look at the homicide rate, 17.5 in Chicago and 54.4 in St. Louis. So they're not wrong on their numbers, right? Saying you're really targeting blue cities, President Trump.
Right. And so far, I think they've sent 2,200 troops into D.C. alone, including support from a lot of other states. A lot of other states have said,
that's right.
We'll send you some
I think
of our
it's like,
people
I don't know, I think it's like 17 Republican states have sent troops in. So both St. Louis and Chicago in the first half of 2025 have seen a reduction in crime. But you know, look, I know that you can do all kinds of things with data, but when you're saying we've got to go fix this problem of crime in blue cities, let's also say we're going to fix the crime in red cities as well. If we're going to be consistent, be consistent.
Yeah, and I don't know what Memphis is like. The reporter that was shouting out, hey, you should look at Memphis, you should look at St. Louis. There are other cities who are just as bad or worse, and why are we targeting?
Right. Well, I think
like
we know
said,
why.
blue cities and blue states. Louisiana, of course, different, but New Orleans, maybe not.
Yeah, so again, since you asked, Memphis, Tennessee, approximately 2,500 violent crimes per 100,000.
Even that's greater than Chicago.
In Chicago's 540. Yeah. And these are FBI data. This is FBI numbers, right? FBI. And then the murder rate, again, Chicago 17.5, Memphis 40.6.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll follow that. We'll continue to follow that.